Greetings everybody, my name's Tommy the Game Master and welcome to my channel. Well, last video I talked about River City Girls, one of the best follow-ups to River City Ransom that I've ever seen. It was a fun game with good graphics, good music, and a story that was clever except for that ending, which was probably one of the most disappointing gag endings I've ever seen in a video game. But trust me, even with that ending, it looks like it would be the best brawler in video game history compared to the game that I'm going to be playing today. What I'm going to be playing today is called Stay Cool Kobyashi, a River City Ransom story. A game that was quietly released on Steam a few months back and for about $15 normal price. Don't pick this one up unless it's less than $5, and only if you're some sort of die-hard fan of the series that has to collect every game, because this one sucks. It's the worst brawler I've played since Double Dragon 4, but to be fair to it, at least does have some decent controls. That was something I couldn't give to Double Dragon 4. Okay, I had to do some digging into who Kobyashi is. Basically, he's the leader of the zombies in the original River City Ransom. You know, the guy where you had to beat up at the warehouse so you get into the school way back in the original game. Yeah, this is him. This is the guy. I guess they rebooted the series and remade River City Ransom back on the 3DS several years ago. I have yet to play it yet. At any rate, you're taking control of Kobyashi for the most part, and beyond that the plot makes no sense. He meets Kunio at night, and then some guy takes the two of them into the future to stop some sort of apocalypse from happening. Basically every few screens you encounter a conversation, but it never makes any sense in any narrative fashion. You never know who's really invading the city, why they're invading, why the school is wrecked when the rest of the city is fine. Thus, when I try to contrast the silliness that is in River City Girls or even River City Underground, where things do get really bizarre, sure, they at least make sense in the structure in the world that you're in. You could follow the story and get that it's not supposed to make sense. They live in a really weird world. Here, it's just crazy from beginning to end, and I don't mean that in a good way. I never got why the world was in danger, who the enemy is, and why they are here. You just beat up people and run around like crazy. Speaking about running around like crazy, let's talk about the gameplay. The gameplay! It sucks! Oh, you want me to tell you why it sucks? Simple. What are the best parts of River City Ransom? The RPG elements and the exploration, where you feel like you're in an actual city and able to explore and run around it. And for the late 80s on the NES, that was a real accomplishment. Take all of those away from Kobyashi here. Yes, you're free to run around this whole circular world, but unlike River City Ransom, where they're for the most part feel like it's a connected parts of the city, here it feels like it's just randomly put together. They don't make any sense or leave any impact, so it's hard sometimes to figure out which screen you're going to and for what reason. And this is without these random wormholes that pop up that take you to a different location. And as far as RPG elements, things like money to pay for stuff so you can buff yourself up, or even basic EXP points don't exist in this game. All beating enemies up does is build a special bar in which you can either heal yourself, go Super Saiyan-ish, or later in the game call in the Double Dragon Twins. These are the River City version of the Double Dragon Twins, not Billy and Jimmy, by the way. But when you call them in, they do some pretty cool stuff, and they do really wreck a lot of enemies really easily, which is far better than your normally AI-controlled characters you normally have. They just seem to die in whatever type of scenario. If you ever get into a serious battle, they're as good as dead. Whether it's Kunio or the guy from the future, the AI is always worthless in a boss battle. So what is the point of the game? It took me a while to figure it out, and by that I mean I actually had to look it up because it never says so. But you see these weird things that look like they escaped from a WarioWare game? You have to beat up 40 of them of a certain color to make a boss appear. Beat all the bosses and the final one appears, and that's it. What areas you fight, where you go to explore, what you do is really actually kind of pointless. Just beat up 40 of these and they just randomly appear. Does this sound like it's not very fun? Because it is. The only good thing I can say is that the controls don't suck. You can move your characters around and you don't feel like you're getting stuck getting pummeled to death most of the time. The combat is lame because Kobyashi only has some really weak punches and kick. The big thing is you can hold down the special button and charge up a Dragon Ball-esque type move where he either just slashes or pummels an enemy for high damage. The only thing regular attacking does is to increase the special bar. If this sounds more frustrating than fun and kind of boring, again, because it is. Overall, this is one of the worst games I have played from this franchise. To Arc System Works' credit here, they did do a good job of at least trying to live up to the graphics that River City Girls gave. Again, more detailed sprite animation compared to the usual Kunio-kun game and their sprites. And again, we get some varied backgrounds that are really quite beautiful in some areas. But this again shows more of the game's problems than helps the games. For example, one of the first areas you explored is River City High School, now in ruins. How did it get this way? How far in the future are we? It's never really explained, and we never get a reason to really even care. None of the rest of the world looks like this, and it's just this really big ruin over River City High School. Contrast that to the River City Underground, which does explain why the world looks like this, and while the main character sprites are detailed, as are some of their bosses, the standard goon is just a color swap escape from a WarioWare game, or random bricks, or UFOs. It's really generic looking and kind of just brings a feeling of blah to this game. Listen, Arc System, if this is the type of graphics you need to use to make a good Kunio-kun game, use these types of graphics. Don't force yourself to build upon what WayForward did, because what WayForward did is what's best for them, not necessarily what's best for you, because I really don't want to play a game like this from the River City franchise. Outside of an excellent remix of the Double Dragon theme whenever you summon the twins, the rest of the game's music is kinda generic and forgettable. It actually kinda suits this game now that I think about it. As far as voice acting, there isn't any. For the most part, it's just text dialogue boxes that pop up. It does kind of fit, I guess, the feel of this game, and the fact that they are charging only $15 for it, I can kind of understand why there isn't an English dub. Stay Cool Kobyashi, a River City Ransom story, is one of the worst kinds of bad. It's not the broken or terrible kind of bad that Double Dragon 4 was. It's just boring and really forgettable. Look over this waste of time. There are plenty of better River City Ransom games on Steam and other places like the 3DS that you can get. In the meantime, Arc System Works, try harder. Oh, and before we do leave River City Week, it's important that most of the games in the Japanese original Kunio-kun franchises were actually wacky sports games, not brawling JRPG. So let's check out a remake that was released a few years ago on Steam of an NES game that the West never really got, or at least not until very recently, with a Double Dragon and Kunio-kun collection. It's time to check out River City Ransom Sports Challenge.